Overstreet. We'll have a few others join us shortly, and we will have quorum. But in the meantime, we will go ahead and jump in. Up there's our quorum member, Councilmember Dozier. If we could take on the first couple items, the first one being the adoption of the agenda. Motion to adopt the agenda by Juan, second by Faroki. Please open the vote.
Dozier's aye.
The vote is open. Will everyone please vote?
Votes have been joined by Councilmember Westmoreland.
The vote is closed. 6 yeas, 0 nays. The agenda has been adopted.
Our next item of business is the approval of the minutes. Could I get a motion to approve the minutes by Juan, second by Westmoreland? Please open the vote.
The vote is open. The vote is closed. 5 yeas, 0 nays. The minutes have been approved.
I'll move to section E of the agenda, which is public comment. I don't know how many public comments we have, but we'll...
Mr. Chair, we have 2. The first will be Ms. Jennifer Brooks.
Great. Ms. Brooks.
Good morning, council members. Again, I always say thank you for your service, and I mean that from my heart. It's a lot of work you do, and I appreciate that. I just wanted to speak very briefly to item 22-R-4262 about the application for funding for the design of the Stitch, and I just wanted to make sure that you knew that I'm always available to do whatever I can to be supportive of public engagement as we go through planning and execution of such a big and important project. Thank you.
Mr. Shakir, you're up next.
Good morning, Ron Shakir, Southwest Atlanta. I'm really concerned about how this council members are moving with such speed and elimination of the input of citizens. As you well know, it was 10 to 12 to 13 maybe minutes that was afforded to citizens who came down to come down to City Hall. And it was 3, 4, 5, 6 at times. But the citizen voice are being cut out more and more. Transportation is very important for mothers and fathers, Mr. Farouk, who catch the early morning bus, who have concerns about their small businesses, who have concerns about their children and bus rides that they take. That fights was part of our growth in America, of civil rights. And for us to speed and take away the right for citizens to come down here and speak, we was able to engage for 2 or 3 minutes when legislation was presented that wasn't on the agenda, when legislation, walk-in papers was given as such, and now those things have been taken away. The fact is that we have a serious situation going on with MARTA. There was a MARTA meeting yesterday. That meeting, I was not afforded to come there, that I didn't even know about it until I came down here yesterday. But worse than that, that it was only opened up virtually for me to be able to participate in. And when I got into the meeting, I was told if I had a telephone, it wasn't accessible. But later on in the meeting, I got the call and I was able to access the meeting. Public engagement is important in this city, and to be ran over is not really in the best of our democracy. I know there's a big meeting here because I see the big wheels in the meeting this morning, but I don't know much about it because a little shade is taken away, and there's some initiatives that you have put forth, Mr. Farouk, that will close down streets, that would make it harder and accessible for people to be a part and to have foreknowledge of what's happening in our city, in our neighborhoods. In my neighborhood, there was a display of streets that brought in by my city council person that the citizens spoke up and rose up about it and was put down anyway, just like that was done on Martin Luther King. I had to run to get here this morning. I'm kind of winded. but I'm sure the council person will tell you that they knew about it. But we have documentation that they don't. Although she made the comments after it that there was overwhelming support, it wasn't. It was meetings that was held that people attended and they was ignored. I would just hope that this transportation would be meeting would be a little bit more transparent and inviting to the citizens to be able to participate in it. And if that means that we have to have civil distress to come down here, we will. We have to be able to do more than snap our fingers when we agree with something or disagree with something. After people are being given some kind of proclamation, have presentations given that y'all, we can clap to acknowledge y'all, but when citizens have something to say, they are not acknowledged. I appreciate the opportunity to be able to talk, but I hope we get more serious about public engagement and go back and give us our 10 and 12 minutes that y'all took away from us. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Shakir. Our next item is presentations and reports. Today we have a report from MARTA, and I will turn the floor over to Mr. Greenwood. Mr. Greenwood, I would ask you to try and keep it at 15 minutes so we can get into some good Q&A.
Thank you, Chairman Faruqi, and good morning, council members. I wanted to thank you all for having us here this morning. I also want to acknowledge our City of Atlanta board members and our chair, Rita Scott, that are with us online. So that's board member Ash, Mullis, and Snyder, as well as Rita Scott. I just wanted to preface the agenda today by saying there's going to be a lot of information. We will acknowledge the 15-minute limit, but we're notably excited about a lot of things, the momentum gathering here at MARTA. You'll hear about some familiar projects, some new funding, some new milestones, some new initiatives. We're going to talk a bit about the 5 points, the progress that we're having down at 5 points, a lot more electric buses on the horizon, the onset of construction season at MARTA, and good financial news that comes through the collaboration of demonstrated capacity to deliver and the collaboration of many of the people in this room. You'll hear about transit-oriented development. You'll hear about station soccer, the rehab at airport. Lots of things that are underway, and I just have to say, it was back in February, Britt Dunhams of ATUs, the Amalgamated Transit Unions here in the room, and back in February we went up to Washington and spoke at length about the need for transit funding, and I had the opportunity to testify at Congress. And I'm happy to report that as we stand here today, there have been millions and millions of dollars of federal support and state support poured into MARTA. So it's a good day, and we're going to get into the details of all of that in just a moment. Operationally, I want to talk about financially. The sales tax revenues were above budget by about $50 million due to a very active local economy. Farebox revenue came in above budget by about $3.3 million. You may have heard last week that MARTA's received an upgrade in its bond credit rating given by Fitch Ratings. After demonstrating sustained maintenance of liquidity and financial resilience, our IDR, or issuer default rating, and outstanding sales tax revenue was upgraded from AA- to a AA, signifying that we're unlikely to default on our debt repayments. So we're strengthening our workforce, we're building our post-pandemic ridership, and we're maintaining excellent sales tax revenue, resulting in a low long-term liability position, which is excellent news as we head into a universally high inflation business landscape. Ridership, as predicted, is going to be a slow and steady return. As a matter of fact, if we were to get a sneak peek into what August looks like, those lines that you can see moving up continue to do so. And while we were at 50-50 of post-COVID ridership in the past, we are now approaching 60% on the rail and approaching 70% on the bus. So all of that is good, and what that means is more service reliability and a move towards restoring the daily schedule on our bus routes instead of the Saturday schedule in the city of Atlanta, and we'll have more on that in a moment. First, I want to talk briefly about the MARTA REACH pilot program. That pilot started in August 31st and has ended now, and we're going over the results, and we'll have next steps and results details for you in the Q4 briefing as we work together with Georgia Tech to sift through that. Bringing it all together, the workforce adds means schedule adjustments, run times are being modified to better reflect actual travel times, span of service improvements in terms of earlier in the morning and later at night. Again, that all comes with restoring our daily ridership or our daily schedule instead of the Saturday schedule. There are some span of service reductions, as we saw that those were the reasonable things to do, and some frequency improvements along the way, as well as coverage restoration on the 71 Cascade and on the Route 809. As for the bus network redesign program, we inserted more time for public engagement. We gathered feedback on development of the redesign concepts, and so it means we'll wait until this fall or winter to engage with the MARTA board and plan further plan development. In the summer, we'll have the board decision and more public outreach about implementation of the decided network, and about a year later, we will launch the new network, complete with all considerations of the enhanced bus service, the value-driven reviews, and all feasible opportunities to employ the REACH concept. In terms of capital expansion, I want to start with the restrooms. We had a request at the last briefing from Councilmember Lewis about the restrooms, and I just wanted to put this graphic up, and that shows everyone where all the available public restrooms are on the system. We are, in fact, converting all of our restrooms into the smart restrooms, and so as you know, that is a more modern, state-of-the-art facility. It's easier to clean, it's more accessible, it's safe, and it's connected to our communication system. So the MARTA board approved the purchase of all equipment for all washrooms, so we've gone ahead and done that, not waiting for any, further inflation to kind of slow our progress, and so we're doing this in phases. Currently, we have these smart restrooms at Decatur and at Lindbergh. Phase 1 is underway, so East Point, the Dome, Doraville, and H.E. Homes, most of those will be finished this month or in October, with the exception of Homes, which will be done later in November. Then we'll get into Phase 2, which is the balance of these 16 stations that you see here. That will start in early 2023. And I'm most excited about Phase 3, which brings every restroom in every station online. Now, I don't have a start time for Phase 3 yet, but we will have a date and schedule for that later next year as we approach it. Bus shelters and amenities, really, it's written there, but basically you've got 37 amenities installed. We've committed to 50 in each year. 2 are under construction. The installs and the under construction and the pending are all illustrated on the map. 8 are in permitting right now, so that's 3 of them in permitting with the City of Atlanta and 5 of them with GDOT, and 3 of them are in design. So when they're in design, it's going to take about 6 weeks to get them from design to construction. So the City of Atlanta will receive 50 more amenities in FY23, and currently all sites are in design. Just a graphic of the bus shelter itself. In this case, we're looking at westbound at Peachtree and Maple. This is serves the 110 and the 5 routes, and also accommodates 60 boardings a day. So you can see the before and after and the difference that some amenity work makes. April 22nd, 2022, that was a really good day. You can see it on our faces. Many of the folks in this room are out there and are represented in that picture. We're happy because we're launching a perpetual improvement in our city and in our region. This was the launch of our first 6 electric buses, and I just can't say enough about the collaboration that went into making something like this happen. Our senators teamed up and secured an additional $3.85 million to help make this happen. I'm here to tell you that more good days are ahead, as just last month, the FTA Administrator, Ms. Nuria Fernandez, and Region 4 Administrator, Dr. Yvette Taylor, joined us again at Edgewood to announce that we were awarded an additional $19.3 million, and that will support 25 more electric buses and related infrastructure. And we will run those out of Perry Garage and serve many of the routes pictured here in West and Southwest Atlanta. You may recall that Councilmember Overstreet requests that we bring the snapshot forward from time to time to remind everyone of the phasing plan as referenced in 2019. The MARTA Board adopted this plan with input from the public and conversations with the City of Atlanta, and I want to keep our attention focused on the projects that are right here in front of us. Please notice Streetcar East Extension, Campbellton Road, BRT, Clifton Corridor, Metropolitan, Cleveland, Summerhill, Bankhead, and Five Points. 8 projects that demand focused delivery. Of these 8, we've now received federal funding on 2, that's 5 Points and Summerhill. We received state funding on 2, that's 5 Points and Bankhead. Summerhill is at 100% design, while Cleveland and Metropolitan ARTs, Bankhead, Station Transformation, and Streetcar East Extension have all reached 30% design. So these 8 projects, along with the enhanced bus service, are where 95% of our focus is with More MARTA, as is consistent with the phasing plan. And more importantly, as I've reflected on the conversation we had last May, I want to acknowledge that I heard your frustration that there are not yet shovels in the ground. There will be shovels in the ground this month. I heard you when you said that you feel that our projects are perpetually in the planning phase, and I'm glad to report that we now have 3 that are at 30% design and ready to move into engineering. Let's start with 5 Points. There was a lot of success there, $25 million raise grant from the U.S. DOT. The Atlanta DOT staff were excellent partners in supporting this application, thanks to the strong support of our congressional delegation. We even had senior White House advisor Mitch Landrieu pictured here on hand to make an announcement. So MARTA will also be receiving $13.8 million from the state, primarily the Georgia Transit Trust Fund, which, as you know, is funded by 50% per ride with Lyft and Uber in the state. And so that's coming our way. This project actually makes history by being the first MARTA project to bring together local, federal, and state funding to make a critical project happen right here at the heart of our system. So we're continuing to work together in selecting a final design for the new plaza and bus loop. Moving on to the corridor updates, Summerhill, as I said, 100% design completed. Station names have been approved by the MARTA board and are listed on the slide. The shovels in the ground this month as utility construction begins in September. Shovels deeper in as construction begins in April 2023. The construction bid package will be released in October. Campbellton Road update. So the MARTA Board of Directors adopted the recommended LPA on July 14th. This combined the community's preferred design features into a central running BRT. That's things like improved travel time, wider sidewalks, increased access, and premium amenities. Just to remind you, this was designed as a gold standard BRT system. And in addition to the city's mega grant application, MARTA requested entry into the Small Start CIG program, which will help supplement the mega grant or will serve as the primary source of federal funding if the mega grant is not awarded. Clifton, we're updating the locally preferred alternative. We expect the MARTA board to update this early next year so that we can request entry into the CIG program. This will connect Lindbergh to Avondale in short order. Other project updates, we're having some technical difficulty with the mic. I hope you still hear me all right. Other project updates include Cleveland Metropolitan ART, Bankhead, Streetcar East, and all of these have reached 30% design. We're moving forward with these, and as I said, all three are geographically diverse, but they're moving into the planning phase, from the planning phase into final design. A bit about transit-oriented development. As members of Mayor Dickens' Affordable Housing Strike Force, MARTA is a committed partner to making sure that we advance affordable housing on MARTA-owned land throughout the city of Atlanta. So this summer, some of you will recall, we had the opening of Marshawn at the King Memorial Station. We were joined by Courtney English, Councilmember Bakhtiari, and Louisa Klimentich to celebrate the delivery of 300 quality multifamily units, of which 100 are affordable. And on September 29th, we're celebrating the delivery of Quill at the Edgewood Candler Station, a 208-unit community with 53 affordable units. So, the affordable housing at both of these stations would not be possible without the support of Invest Atlanta and the City of Atlanta. So I'm here to thank you, all of you, for your partnership. Also on the right, you'll see work in progress as we're advancing at least 9 TODs in the city with good progress in each case. More on TODs at HE Homes. MARTA Board just approved an award of a master planning contract to HOK, and this is the first step to having proper community engagement around a plan that will be the basis of the rezoning. We also are continuing our support of iVillage at MLK and the events taking place there. We're also working toward an extension of the lease agreement to support Invest Atlanta's efforts. And we continue to work with Station Soccer to expand its presence in the city of Atlanta. On September 24th, you're all invited. We'll be celebrating the grand opening of Station Soccer at our Lindbergh station. This program has been incredibly successful in connecting the communities we serve. The MARTA Market is operating in its 7th season, as you know, to bring fresh fruits and vegetables to patrons and communities. This market is operating at 5 Points, West End, H.E. Homes, and Bankhead on the days and times shown in the image in the middle. And then rinse and repeat. This was hosted by Artbound, which, as you know, is MARTA's public art program. The project highlights 10 Atlanta poets who were chosen by a local poet, rapper, and school teacher from an open call and presented what we call rain poems at various bus stops around Atlanta. The poems were applied during using a special material rendering the words invisible until it rains, and when the rain falls on them, it reveals the poem. So an opening celebration took place at the West End station on July 16th, included live spoken word, DJ, and refreshments, as well as the reveal of a large poem written by the curator expressly for MARTA and applied with the invisible material to a large sidewalk at the station. And with any luck, I'll be able to show you a video clip. And I recognize that with the light shining brightly on the screen, it may have been difficult for some people to see it, but as the water hit the concrete, which is to emulate rain, the grandeur of the poetry appears. And so it's just, thought it was really cool. Thought I'd want to share that with you. So with that, Chair Faruqi, I'll return the floor to you.
Thank you, Mr. Greenwood. And before we turn to Q&A from the committee, just want to note thanks to MARTA for your the last 2 days of community engagement around the Streetcar East expansion. We had almost 250 folks between in-person the first night and virtual the second night. And
absolutely, our pleasure.
So thank you all for that. 2 questions, and I'll pass it along to folks who have signed up. I do want to recognize Councilmember Waits, Councilmember Lewis, and Council President Shipman, who have arrived since I last recognized committee members and council members. The first one is unrelated to your presentation directly, but can you talk a little bit about MARTA's, how you ended the fiscal year last year, fiscal year 2022, up, down over the previous year, and if up, how that surplus will be spent?
So yes, we were up. We were up in all areas, from mild to about, I think it was $50 million in excess in some categories. We're going to use that. It's a system approach, so it's not really divided in terms of jurisdictions in City of Atlanta proper, but it's a system approach, and the money that MARTA has reserved will operate in reserves and continue to feed our operating and capital projects. So it's simply preempting any concerns of a fiscal cliff, as some agencies are concerned about. We'll just continue to use the money that we save in the year previous to continue to run with the lights on and plan for our future.
Can you put a finer point on system approach and what you mean by that? I know you're saying, look, we have multi-county jurisdiction here. We have buses and trains all over the place, not just City of Atlanta. We get that, but how do you prioritize where in the system to spend these dollars, and how do you, what's the rubric y'all use when you think about how to deploy a system approach?
Yeah, I guess said differently, I would say that MARTA plans our work and sets our priorities as a system. The fact that equity is at play, the fact that we decide based on need and useful life of the equipment and condition of our facilities as a system, we plan that independent of what the financial sources are. At the end of the year, as I've said, if we have successful news, I mean, if we're in a deficit, we share that as a holistic system. If we're in a positive situation, we share that as a holistic system. So as MARTA's needs arise, whether it's fleet life extension or station rehabilitation, we set those priorities independent of what the financial sources are, and then we start to feed those priorities based on the money that we have. So, that's as fine a point as I can put on it without, a full-on presentation, if you would, in terms of what historically we have done. But it's, suffice to say, it's a holistic approach as opposed to how much of this money is going to go to each jurisdiction.
Okay. I'll see where Q&A goes. We may ask you to come back and help us pull back the curtain on that. And one last question on the surplus. Can you just explain what the driving force behind the surplus was, a ridership or something else that drove?
Yeah, it was sales tax. Largely it was sales tax. I mean, we have a higher than normal inflationary situation and good active local spending, so that combined for sales tax revenue that was in excess of what we expected.
Great. And then one more question or small bucket of questions before I turn to my colleagues, Councilmember Dozier and Overstreet. In the Moore MARTA, the IGA with the city requires a quarterly presentation from MARTA to the mayor on how the Moore MARTA funds are being spent. Are those meetings happening?
Yeah, I'll tell you that we've had at least 3 meetings so far in the past few months with the mayor's cabinet in terms of how Moore MARTA is being spent. We're working on reworking the framework, setting the priorities, and so we're in lockstep with the mayor's office on that.
Okay. And the reports to the mayor that you're describing include expenditure by type under with the Moore MARTA funding. So, how specifically how these dollars are being spent.
Exactly.
Okay.
Yeah.
In this committee, have access to those reports?
Sure. Absolutely.
Great. We'll follow up with you.
All right.
All right. Councilmember Dozier.
Thank you so much, Mr. Chair. Thank you so much for your presentation. Once again, good to see you again.
Good to see you.
I just want to open by saying thank you to you and your team for your outreach to city council members the last few weeks. I had a phenomenal meeting with Josh Rowan at Five Points MARTA Station. We walked through some of the different concepts of the rehab of Five Points MARTA Station. I know myself and several of us here met with your staff this week about the Streetcar East extension, about 5 Points, about the bus network redesign. So this is all to say, just definitely more of that, please, especially the on-site business, because it is very helpful for us to understand and to visualize what MARTA is thinking, where opportunities lie, and even share from our perspective concerns that we've gotten from community members or our own experiences about where there's opportunities for new perspectives as y'all are going through these visioning processes. But just really appreciate that outreach effort.
Thank you, Mr. Dozier. I appreciate those comments. It lands on the heart because MARTA made a decision that, we get as much out of those engagements as the public does. So it's one thing to go out and share where we're headed, but we're finding more value in listening and hearing about the finer points of what people are looking for. I think the acquisition of Mr. Rowan has been an excellent move for MARTA, and we have charged him with doing more public engagement around some of our projects. So, the bus network redesign, for example, instead of steaming ahead with what we thought was the answer, we've inserted more time and continue to encourage people to go onto our website and let their voices be heard.
Yeah, and I guess that's a good segue to my first question about the bus network redesign. You shared on your slides different locations that y'all identified for new amenities or bus shelters. Is that going to be impacted by the bus network redesign, considering that I imagine it's not going to be too hard for y'all to move bus shelters if necessary, but if you can talk to impact.
Right. Well, the good news there is that our shelter program is based on high ridership locations. So it's suffice to say, if there's a high ridership location, the bus network redesign will continue to serve it. If there's a new found location for a shelter, then, and I forget the number, I think it's basically anything in excess of 25 or 50 boardings per day, that makes it onto the cut for the shelter program or the amenity program. So if something through the design produces a location that requires a shelter or an amenity, it will be added to that program.
Okay, perfect. And that, just as a comment, I know I've shared this with you and your staff before, but I'll say it again because it's something that is near and dear to my heart. As y'all are looking at these additional amenities for bus stops, just want to implore the MARTA team to look into what other cities have done where seating is baked into the pole that the bus stop sign is located at.
Right.
Just recognizing that a lot of, especially in our Southwest Atlanta communities, pole in the dirt, that's all we have for many of our bus stops. And so when we think about how do we make the MARTA experience safer, more dignified, if it's raining, if it's muddy, it can be hard and challenging for a lot of people who rely on the bus. And so I know every time I assume that something is cheap and is costs and low cost, I've been reminded, and I've learned very differently since I've been in this role, but just something that I'm going to continue to ask MARTA to look at opportunities so that even if it doesn't qualify for a bus shelter, I think there's still other ways we can make our ridership better for more people.
Thank you, Mr. Dozier. And I would add to that list, not just rain, but heat.
Yep.
And standing at the bus stop, sometimes, you're really looking for the shade, and if the trees aren't there, you really need something. So that's top of mind for us as we move forward.
Thank you so much. I do have a question. I think most of my questions are actually bus related. So the ART program that y'all are working through, if you could remind me what is driving that delivery timeline. When I think of ART, I just think it's higher frequency buses, but recognizing that the delivery, I think, is expected not for another 3 or 4 years. I know there's more involved with getting that online. If you could talk through that, because when I see 2025 delivery, it doesn't compute.
Yeah.
A little bit.
The nutshell of that is really the concept that we can't do everything all at once, the concept that our capital teams are tasked with making sure that some of those high-profile, earlier aforementioned BRT programs are up and running as quickly as possible, shovels in the ground. And so the ART is coming along with it, but it's really about bandwidth and getting some of those programs done. ART's, you're right, somewhat easier to deliver in that we don't have the requirement and to the extent of the fully dedicated lanes and the off-board payment systems and some of the technical things that BRT requires, but it really is about bandwidth and making sure that we, promise a date that we can responsibly achieve.
Will bus stop enhancements be a part of that program?
Yes, it will.
Okay, thank you. And then with the no emission buses that you shared, I was really interested in the routes that were chosen for that program. The Perry Boulevard Annex seems to be what's driving y'all's decision as far as the routes that were chosen based on proximity to that, along with equity, as the Southwest and the West Side were largely included in that. Are y'all looking at potentially expanding that program in other communities?
Absolutely.
And are y'all? I'm just curious what KPIs or measures y'all are using to determine that expansion.
Yeah, so first of all, you're right. This is just the next wave in many electric buses that we're going to be bringing on. And we recognize that, in deciding where to start, there's a need to demonstrate MARTA's ongoing commitment to equity. So I believe it's areas 9, 10, and 11 in terms of districts that are being served through that area of Perry Garage. And then in the next wave of buses, electric buses, we will look at where that's best. One of the things we've targeted is that all BRTs, as they come online, will be served by electric buses. So that, that in and of itself will give you an idea of the distribution campaign.
Okay. And the reason why I asked that question is my district just has two different highways that cut through. I know many of us have a highway that cut through our district, but I'm fortunate enough to have both of the major interstates. And when we've looked at health disparity data, especially in Southwest Atlanta communities, but in MPUV especially, asthma rates are higher than anywhere else in the city, and a big part of that is with the amount of traffic that we have on our interstates. So opportunities to play any role we can to convert our internal combustion engines or even our natural gas engines into something that is carbon neutral or something that's going to help the air quality. I think just want to reemphasize that I think it's important to do what we can, especially in communities that have these disparities that have been caused by our over-reliance on cars.
Thank you, Mr. Dozier.
And then my last, two more questions and I'll be done. The Artbound program, I'm curious, as we were looking at activating our different transit stations, I know the poetry exhibition that you shared is one aspect of that. Has MARTA considered doing what has kind of been normalized in other cities, like in terms of busking or allowing people to be permitted to do some sort of artistic expression in these public spaces as a way to activate our spaces? Is that something MARTA has considered or is exploring to?
Yeah, absolutely. I believe we do have a program that approaches that concept. So I don't have a lot of details on it now, but I've seen and heard evidence that we do have a program where we have talented musicians, for example, come in during certain times of the day and grace us with their talents. So we do that.
And I've seen that in kind of similar to the MARTA market, whereas in advance that something's happening that's very programmed and very intentional.
Yep.
But I think what we've seen in other cities is there's some spontaneity in terms of the artistry that occurs in those spaces. And so I'm happy to try to think out loud in a separate conversation, but just that's something that I've been thinking about in terms of what can we do to make our transit stations even more lively than what we've been doing.
Excellent. Yeah, we do have a registration process where we kind of schedule the talent that comes through. But to your point, things like simply putting a piano out in some of our stations, as we have done, and there's some spontaneous combustion of talent that occurs around that. And I've been there to see the reaction of the community and quite frankly, be surprised at someone that just kind of ambles over and starts to play piano as though they've been doing it all their lives. So very excited to continue that discussion.
And then just my last question, with all the federal grants that you all are applying for, especially the mega grant that y'all have applied for Campbellton Road, or that y'all work with the city to apply for, any expectation on when we'll hear back on how that grant application did, or if we're selected?
Yeah, we expect to hear back late November or December of this year, so we'll keep you posted on that.
All right. Thank you.
Thank you.
Yes, I will happily do interpretive dance at 5 points. Mr. Chair, that is, I yield.
Councilmember Overstreet.
Thank you, Chair Faroki. How are you?
Fine, thank you.
I just have a few questions. I missed understanding what you were saying about slide number 15. So could you please restate that funding statement that you, is it 14 or 15? I think it's 15. You were talking about, it was about the Campbellton corridor, but you were talking about some funding.
What I said was, I mentioned that in addition to the city's mega grant application, MARTA's also gone ahead and requested entry into the federal Small Starts program, which is a CIG, the Capital Investment Grant Program from the FTA. And so if they're both successful, then the CIG will supplement the mega application. If the mega application is not successful, then the CIG will form the primary source of funding for that program.
So considering the CIG?
Yes, Capital Investment Grant Program.
Plus the mega grants, and the more MARTA half-penny sales tax, where are we with that? Like, what amount would you say you would assume that Campbellton is fetching?
So I would have to, first of all, the mega, we know that there's a,
180?
I'm not sure. Carrie, do you remember what the amount is for the mega? So basically, what I'll ask Carrie to think through that. But basically, the CIG is more of it's a conversation, it's a negotiation process, and at that point, the FTA will decide how much money they're prepared to provide towards the project. So, you know, I don't have an expected number. It's just a process that we enter into, and we start to talk to them about the need and the ridership and the tenets of the program. They will give us a rating, whether it's, you know, low, medium, or high. If it's not medium or better, then they don't entertain supporting us, and if it's medium or better, they come back with a dollar amount. So I'm not sure we can give you a total number, but maybe we can give you a better idea.
Okay.
Yeah, so I just confirmed with our City of Atlanta ATL DOT folks, we worked together to put this mega grant application in. The total project budget right now is still at $300 million, but we did apply for 180 in the mega grant.
Okay, so you're saying that if you're requesting funding for Campbellton Road for the 180 plus the more MARTA sales tax plus the CIG,
Correct.
regardless of what amount that is, you're confirming that you are committing to $300 million for, regardless of what number
That is correct.
actually
So we are
received.
still holding a total project budget of $300 million.
Okay. And is there a reason why you would just keep that at $300 million instead of, you know, investing more if you receive more?
Well, it's going to be based on how the final design is, you know, as the project progresses and the concepts that are moved forward, and all of those decisions that go from, right now we're in the concept phase and going through, you know, preliminary design at 30%, we should really have a better sense at that point of what the
Transit-oriented development. However, I do see that you keep mentioning Oakland City, and although that is Campbellton Road, it's the very end of Campbellton Road. Like, we've got a 6-mile stretch that goes all the way west up to the Greenbrier corridor and beyond, where we actually have a park and ride for MARTA. So I would like to see in the future more transit-oriented development conversation about the actual Campbellton Road, all of Campbellton Road, not just Lee Street, okay, at that point, because I still don't have that concept of where we're investing or actually projecting to invest, or what our plans are for transit-oriented development on Campbellton Road. This is like the very end of it.
Okay.
And doesn't really include the places where our ridership actually is pouring into the system from. So I'd like to see that. Also, because I get a little concerned, actually, when we're given a choice of, you know, do you want to go more frequent, or would you like to go further to the people that, I mean, I'm not sure what the questions are in the survey, but I do know that the purpose is to redesign, right? And so I get concerned when we're dealing with the population that actually is using MARTA out of necessity. So, you know, for them having to choose, I want to just make sure that we're keeping top of mind that mostly everyone that gets on that bus or any kind of MARTA transportation in that corridor they're really trying to get somewhere. They're going to work. They're going to pick up their children. It's a necessity ride. They're not going to the game. They're not going to an art show. They really are in need of transportation. So having to do a survey to pick is alarming for some because they're thinking, is my bus route going away? Or are we not going? Am I going to have to go further to get on it? Is my route going to take longer? So I just want to make sure that you all keep that top of mind. So that's not a question. That's just me letting you know what my expectations are for these riders that are riding the transportation for out of necessity. Okay. So where are we with our online tracker? You know, for our accountability legislation, like we talked about how Atlanta has put our prioritization and our rebaselining online so that everyone can see where their projects are and where are we with that with MARTA?
It's a work in progress. We expect Q1 next year to have that completed. As I said, I think I said it last time, there is a holistic review being done just to make sure that the rebaseline is accurate as can be. So you can expect a finished product in Q1 of next year.
So our former Commissioner Rowan, I do know that he will be instrumental in that. So just letting you know that I'm still looking forward to that. So you're saying we cannot expect that anytime in 2022?
Exactly.
All right. And finally, something positive. So I am glad to see these smart bathrooms everywhere. I know when I first got on council, that was important to me to make sure that our escalators were working and that the bathrooms were open. So I am happy to see the investment and the operation there. So
Thank you.
Good job on that. That's it. I yield. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilmember Westmoreland.
Thank you, Mr. Chair and Mr. CEO. I will pick up where two questions and one request, pick up where Ms. Overstreet left off. The smart bathrooms and the bus shelters, what is the funding source for those upgrades?
Those are smart bathrooms, local funding, local sources, and what was the other one? The bus? No, bus, again, local.
More MARTA dollars or general fund?
But Carrie, you know for certain? Yeah, they're both state of good repair local funds.
Good deal. Do you have an update on the timeline for figuring out the final design for the 5 Points station?
I would say I can tell you that we're making good progress. I can tell you that the time it takes is really about the collaboration with the various interests, getting back out there with CAP and the other community folks that really have input. I can tell you that I think it's 2026 is when we expect to have most of that substantive work completed, and that's about as much detail as I can offer at this time.
Okay. And then finally, a request for the Q4 report. If it fits with the timeline for North Ave, Holmes, Bankett, and Arts, I can't quite tell whether it will or not, but can we do a deeper dive into what we expect or hope to build there in each of the spots as it relates to, residential units versus retail versus office?
Okay, and so just let me make sure I make a note of that. Specifically, you wanted to see by Q4?
Just in the next presentation, a deeper dive into our TOD work, and I was focusing especially on the 4 that you listed here on slide 19.
Okay.
It seems like those are the ones that were top of mind at the moment.
Will do.
Thank you.
Council President Shipman.
Thank you. Good morning.
Good morning.
First, let me start by saying congratulations on an upgrade in a bond rating. That's not easy to do, and that's real financial impact. So well done on that.
Thank you.
I have a few questions on a few different topics. Let me start with the East Side streetcar extension the last couple of days. It was noted in that presentation that there's going to be a trial, 1-week trial of closure of Irwin Street between Sampson and Krog. My question is, what's the plan for community engagement? That's obviously a huge question, whether or not that should be done. There are going to be a lot of loud voices that are going to have opinions. How are you going to make sure that you get a good representation?
Yeah, that'll be a multi-fold approach. So that, in advance, online and on-site collaboration with the community. I'm not sure, Carrie, if you have any more details. Please do. Thank you.
So John Saxton, Assistant Director, Mulally Planning, Atlanta DOT. This is really a collaboration between us and MARTA, and we're going to go about this the same way that we would permit any lane or street closure for any DOT or construction project that a developer is applying for. We did find out, as Councilmember Farokhi noted the other day, the whole area is kind of an active construction site. One of the sites in particular is actually going to be applying for a closure of Irwin Street at the same time, so we're really going to look to combine that effort as much as possible to minimize the impact on the community. But we're going to go about our typical process that we notify residents, NPUs, businesses about some of those impacts to minimize that. But we think this closure is a really important opportunity to collect some data. So both what the traffic impacts are and to hear from the public what they like and what they don't like.
Good, thank you. I'm going to jump around, so I apologize. On page 16, Clifton timing, you touched on, and the slide speaks to, in active conversations with CSX around acquisition or use of the corridor, and also the kind of next decision is MARTA Board Q1 2023. Do you expect to have resolution with CSX by Q1 2023? And if not, how does that start to impact the overall timeline of that decision?
We're hopeful that we'll have a resolution with CSX at that time. We are determined to get to the board and give them the opportunity to make that decision. We'll have to decide at the time if CSX right-of-way is at all within our grasp. If it is, and it takes more time to secure that, I think it's worth the time it takes. If we have to come to the conclusion that that's just not in the cards, then the LPA takes that into account and we move forward.
Okay, that's helpful. Thanks. You talked about ridership trends. You touched on the ridership trends. In the last quarterly report, we talked about the importance of ridership returning to the overall budget stability long term, right? That in fact, part of the COVID dollars and federal dollars has been helping the budget as ridership has returned. I'm curious if you're seeing in early indications the ridership return to the levels that you need to hit your next year's budget.
We're confident that our next year's budget will be unimpacted. So we've got enough in the reserves that we can make sure that we can continue to provide the level of service that we that we wanted to do. I'm optimistic that our ridership will continue to. I mean, since January of this year, we've had a significant increase on the bus ridership in particular, and as that trend continues, I don't know if it's a year out before we get back to where we were, but at this rate, I expect that whether it's next year or the following year, that we'll get back to those numbers.
So a related topic, obviously frequency and consistency of service is huge when it comes to ridership. Talk a little bit about labor and what you're seeing in the labor market and whether or not those two things are related. If you can't hire folks to drive buses and drive trains and keep things operating, then you can't hit the frequency and it can impact ridership. So I'm very interested to hear your take on the labor market and your ability to fulfill positions right now. And related, how much of your surplus was related to unfilled positions, pressure from the labor market?
Yeah, a lot of our expenditure savings has been in labor. I mean, we've got a fair bit of overtime increase, but that doesn't touch the number. When you talk about the fully burdened rate of a full-time employee, there are a lot of savings inherent in there. Since January, MARTA is not immune from what's going on in the country. So we've had at least 275 departures in the bus operator ranks. So that's on a base of about 1,300 people, 275 have left. We've had a deficit as high as 212 operators late last year as a result of what's going on. But the good news is, and what sets us apart, is that we've had 420 onboards. So that speaks to the level of effort that MARTA's been doing. We've been, we've been outreaching to all 159 counties in Georgia and Alabama. We've had online recruitment going on. We've used 19 independent recruitment services at the same time. So it's all hands on deck. We've gone on to bi-weekly job fairs as opposed to monthly. A lot of things that we're doing. So, the net, I would say, the net gain since January has been 154 operators, and we expect 50 more to be ready to onboard by the end of this month. So it is a lot of tough slogging. The traditional methods of recruiting just aren't enough in this environment, but we're committed.
Okay. Let's talk a little bit about Summerhill. Gotten to Summerhill 100% on design of Summerhill. Since we saw you last time, budget estimates of Summerhill have come out. They have increased. I'm curious if you could touch a little bit about some of the drivers of that, at least from what I understand, include inflation, some change of scope over time, some just design elements that as you get refined design, the costs go up. And I'm curious if those three categories and one more, any implications of development that's happened that has impacted because more development has come here and curb cuts are needed or something that, we thought it was going to work like this, but because of the development, we need it to work like that. Can you just talk a little bit about the drivers of the
There has been some scope, I forget the word I'm looking for, but anyway, some dream's the wrong word, but we've been, there've been a lot of sources and people that have been creative, aspirational is the word I'm looking for, and which causes scope creep. And I invite it, it's creative, and it's the kind of thinking that we need at a certain stage in the project. There's red paint, which was something that we wanted to put in along the entire stretch of the Summerhill corridor. Anyway, so all of those things have combined for the inflationary reality. I think every one of our corridor projects are going to have to undergo the same kind of responsible scrutiny and value management when the time comes to actually move forward. And so that's what MARTA's done. We've, there was some talk in the press about scaling back, but I can assure you it's just responsible management. It's the kind of scrutiny that we're going to apply to every one of our and it's also not going to tangibly affect the customer. So the customer-facing things are not going to be affected. In fact, a lot of the savings that we're doing are modular in that we will put the infrastructure in for, the redundant off-board payment systems, for example, and so that at a later date we can go ahead and add that should the need arise.
Just given the inflationary environment and this experience, are you changing your approach at all to how much contingency that you're putting on the projects that we're seeing? And could you speak to that a little bit?
Yeah, I don't have the details, but yes, contingency calculations have increased across the board with all of our projects. We see that as just a source of truth. It's our best guess at the time when these projects were initially conceived were accurate, but in today's environment, we've gone back and recast a lot of and that's a lot of the work that I was speaking to Councillor Overstreet about in terms of the rebaselining of costs of some of these projects. That's the very idea that's being considered when we come back to you with the truth.
So just a request, when you do come back with recalibrations, as much as you can, if you can break out the drivers of those, right? Sure. Almost like a waterfall chart, inflation, change of scope, and then I'll change the contingency, right? That's going to be a category that's going to change on these budgets. I think it'd be helpful if we can see that as clearly as possible.
Will do.
Last question, and you touched on it a moment ago, question around 5 points. Obviously, 2026 now has become a calendar year that we all are circling because of World Cup. What will be done when World Cup happens from this project list?
We're sure that we will have the downstairs, if you will, completed in terms of the refurbishment of the station. So that will be done. At the upper deck and outside, I can't commit to those projects being done. It's just, there's just not enough time. What we will do, I mean, I can say if we had a major event, if we were to serve World Cup today, we could do it. Right? 5 Points, as it exists today, can safely and efficiently serve that group. What we want to make sure is in the middle of a construction project is that the appropriate hoarding and wayfinding and safety parameters are all in place, and we've got plenty of time. We see that timeline coming. We'll be more than ready to accommodate that, even in the middle of the phased approach to the construction.
Perhaps I can make a request instead of going on today. In the fourth quarter, it would be helpful, I think, if you had a slide or two that said, in 2026, we expect these projects, not just 5 Points, but Summerhill, do we expect it to be done? Do we expect it to be almost done? And walk through, so we can be very clear about, because obviously, the other thing is, if it's not done, then you're also going to say, hey, we're going to take a pause on this because of, whatever, it may impact the timeline. But I think folks want to know what's going to be completed when we have this huge event that's going to descend on the city.
Will do.
Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you, Council President. I had asked a similar question in a different conversation with MARTA and asked them, whether fourth quarter or earlier is fine, but what percentage of, to the extent they know or have reliable data, what percentage of riders or MARTA users headed to an event at Mercedes-Benz Stadium use 5 Points as their primary point of departure or arrival versus some of the other stations in the area? Yeah, so I'm curious kind of how that plays into how they decide what to do. Councilor Overstreet. Yeah.
So as soon as my colleague was speaking, I realized that it's one more thing I forgot to talk about. But I've been, some pictures were shared with me comparing the different graphics that you use in different sides of town for outreach to your riders and to all of the citizens in between Campbellton Road, the Clifton Corridor, Summerhill, and I just want to just ask you all to keep it top of mind that all of the presentations and outreach should be similar. I can share with you some photos off to the side of the difference in the outreach, and I just want to make sure that if scan codes and color big
Agree with you. There's got to be a consistency in how we engage each and every community, and that's a non-starter without it.
Yeah, these, I didn't take these pictures. They were brought to me, and it's concerning.
Okay.
It is, and I don't want anyone to feel that they're less than or
Absolutely
that deserve less or they are not capable of appreciating great graphics or whatever the case may be. I just want to make sure that we're being mindful of how we engage.
Will do. Thank you.
All right, thank you, Mr. Gilman. Appreciate your presence and the MARTA team's presence here today. We look forward to future conversations.
Thank you.
And we'll see you in a quarter. I'm sure we'll see some of your staff here in interim meetings. We'll now move to ordinances for first read.
Item number 1, 2201721, an ordinance by Transportation Committee authorizing the mayor or his designee on behalf of the City of Atlanta to execute a quitclaim deed to the City of College Park to convey tax parcel 14-192-1-6-5 located on Red Wine Road, College Park, Georgia, to execute a quitclaim deed to College Park to convey tax parcels that are listed herein, located on the south side of Harvard Avenue in College Park, Georgia, and to accept a quitclaim deed from the College Park Business Industrial Development Authority conveying tax parcels listed herein, located on the north side of Harvard Avenue in College Park, Georgia, to the city for the purpose of consummating the transactions authorized by Ordinance 12-0-55 and for other purposes. Item number 2, 2201722, an ordinance by Transportation Committee authorizing the Chief Financial Officer to amend the fiscal year 2023 budget on behalf of the Atlanta Department of Transportation in the amount not to exceed $22,668.09, and to transfer funds from the Georgia 400 Multi-Use Trail Project account to the Ivan Allen Jr. Boulevard Pedestrian Improvement Project account to eliminate a funding shortfall in the latter and for other purposes. Item number 3, 2201723, an ordinance by Transportation Committee authorizing the mayor or his designee on behalf of the Atlanta Department of Transportation to accept grant funds from the Georgia Department of Transportation to authorize the Chief Financial Officer to amend the fiscal year 2023 budget by adding to anticipations and the appropriations in an amount not to exceed $8,835,686.00 for the PATH 400 trail from Wyuka Road to Mountain Way Commons to Floridians Drive, PI number 005997, to enter into agreements with Georgia Department of Transportation for implementation of grant acceptance and participation and for other purposes. Item number 4, 2201724, an ordinance by Transportation Committee on behalf of the Atlanta Department of Transportation to correct ordinance number 2100624, adopted by the Atlanta City Council on September 7th, 2021, and approved by per City Charter Section 2-403 on September 15th, 2021, by correcting the amount paid out of the Transportation Fund, all other parts of the legislation to remain unchanged and for other purposes. Item number 5, 2201725, an ordinance by Transportation Committee authorizing the mayor or his designee to amend FC 1190431, State Route 260 Glenwood Avenue, US 23, State Route 42, Moreland Avenue intersection improvement project with Precision 2000 Incorporated on behalf of the Atlanta Department of Transportation to extend the term of the contract on a month-to-month basis for a period of not to exceed 9 months, retroactively effective June 26, 2022, with no additional funding required and for other purposes.
Thank you. Ordinance is for second read.
Section H, ordinance for second reading, 2201686. An ordinance by Transportation Committee authorizing the mayor or his designee on behalf of the City of Atlanta to enter into an airport use and lease agreement with Southern Airways Express LLC at Hartsfield-Jackson Atlanta International Airport for the use of the airfield and the Central Passenger Terminal Complex for an initial term of 5 years beginning retroactively as of June 1st, 2022, with options to renew for successive terms of 5 years each through June 30th, 2036, and for other purposes.
Mr. Bayadari.
Good morning, Mr. President. Good morning, Mr. Chair and Council Member. This is a standard airport use and lease agreement to execute a 5-year contract with Southern Airways to provide essential air service to cities to and from Atlanta.
Motion approved by Juan, second by Faroki. Please open the vote.
The vote is open. The vote is closed. 6 yeas, 0 nays. This item is favorable. Mr. Chair, item number 7 needs to be substituted. The substitute changes the caption. It corrects the payment amount, the subdivision application number, and it attaches the ATL.sidewalk waiver memo.
Motion to amend with substitute by Juan. Second. Second by Overstreet. Please open the vote.
The vote is open. vote. The vote is closed. 5 yeas, 0 nays. The substitute is before you. Item number 7, 22R1695, an ordinance by Councilmember Howard Shook as substituted by Transportation Committee, an ordinance authorizing the mayor or his designee to waive the sidewalk requirements, section 15-9.3 of the City of Atlanta Code of Ordinances, to provide that certain subdivision SD 2112, 1 Emma Lane applicant deposit a dollar amount of $4,814.03, equal to the value of the required sidewalk construction, into a designated trust fund account for District 7 and for other purposes.
Need to bring forward a substitute? Do we need to? Or yeah. So motion to bring forward a substitute.
Mr. Chair, we already brought forth the substitute. So we just
Apologies. Motion to approve as substituted by Juan, second by Faroki. Please open the vote.
The vote is open. The vote is closed. 6 yeas, 0 nays. This item is approved on substitute. Item number 8, 22O1713, an ordinance by Councilmember Byron Amos authorizing the conversion of Chapel Street Southwest from a one-way street to a two-way street and for other purposes, and the department requests that this item be held.
Motion to hold by Juan, second by Faroki. Please open the vote on the motion to hold.
The vote is open. The vote is closed. 6 yeas, 0 nays. This item is held. Section I, resolutions. Item number 9, 22R4248, a resolution by Councilmember Mary Norwood to clarify the project scope of the 2015 T-Splosh project, Moores Mill Road at West Wesley Road intersection improvements, in order to make it a 3-lane intersection and not a 4-lane intersection, and for other purposes.
Councilmember Westmoreland.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I was hoping that someone from ATL DOT could speak to this paper. If memory serves, there's not really a clarification that's needed necessarily, so much as this would be a change in what had been, I thought, settled for quite some time. So any thoughts would be appreciated.
Thank you so very much, Councilmember Westmoreland. So you are absolutely correct. The design has been done for quite some time. It was actually out for bid. There was an OCC issue with the procurement, so it was canceled. It's actually back out on the street now for rebid. If it is the pleasure of the Transportation Committee and the Council, of course, we would restudy the issue, but there was a traffic study done prior to the development of this design. The design was driven by the goals and principles of providing safety, of providing the appropriate capacity, et cetera, that is the charge of the Atlanta DOT. There are no additional funds available, so if a restudy is to occur, funding has to be identified for that. We have the budget already set for the construction portion. Any changes, obviously, potential for change in funding requirements as well. A delay, as we all know, with what's going on in the marketplace, any delay is going to cause a project to be more expensive. So those are kind of the highlights of where we stand, and happy to answer any other questions.
Thank you. Given all of that, at the appropriate time, I'll make a motion to hold for now.
Motion to hold by Westmoreland, second by Juan. Please open the vote.
The vote is open. The vote is closed. 6 yeas, 0 nays. This item is held. Item number 10, 22R4249, a resolution by Councilmember Mary Norwood requesting the mayor or his designee to make the intersection of Margaret Mitchell Drive Northwest and Moores Mill Road Northwest an all-way stop control intersection, to request the Atlanta Department of Transportation to install stop signs at the intersection and for other purposes. And Mr. Chair, this item is a duplicate of 22R4177, which was adopted on September 6th at full council meeting. The motion should be to file.
Motion to file by Juan, second by Faroki. Please open the vote on the motion to file.
The vote is open. vote is closed. 6 yeas, 0 nays. This item is filed. Item number 11, 22R4254, a resolution by Councilmember Andrea L. Boone requesting the Atlanta Department of Transportation to install flashing beacons on Tarragon Way Southwest and Esther Drive Southwest and for other purposes. And the department requests that this item be held.
Great. I will move to hold. Could I get a second?
Second.
Second by Overstreet. Please open the vote.
The vote is open. The vote is closed. 6 yeas, 0 nays. This item is held. Item number 12, 22R4255, a resolution by Councilmember Andrea L. Boone requesting the mayor or his designee to install speed limit signs of 25 miles per hour on Tarragon Way Southwest and Esther Drive Southwest and for other purposes.
There's no objection from ATL DOT, so I'll move to approve. Second by Westmoreland. Please open the vote.
The vote is open. Will everyone please vote? The vote is closed. 6 yeas, 0 nays. This item is favorable. Mr. Chair, item number 13 requires a substitute. The substitute adds Fairburn Street Southwest in the caption and throughout the legislation.
Motion to bring forward the substitute by Juan, second by Faruqi. Please open the vote on the motion to bring forward the substitute.
The vote is open. Will everyone please vote? The vote is closed. 6 yeas, 0 nays. The substitute before you. Item number 13, 22R4258, a resolution by council members Marcy Collier Overstreet and Andrea L. Boone as substituted by Transportation Committee, a resolution requesting the mayor or his designee to install traffic calming devices on Mays Crossing Southwest and Benjamin Court Southwest and Mays Court Southwest to Fairburn Road Southwest and for other purposes.
Motion to approve is substituted. Second by Juan. Please open the vote.
The vote is open. The vote is closed. 6 yeas, 0 nays. This item is favorable on substitute. Item number 14, 22R4246, a resolution by council members Amir Faruqi, Justin Winston, Byron D. Amos, Jason Dozier, Liliana Bakhtiari, Alex Juan, Andrea L. Boone, Matt Westmoreland, Michael Julian Bond, and Keisha Shawn Waits, authorizing the mayor or his designee to apply for a fiscal year 2022 U.S. Department of Transportation Reconnecting Communities Pilot Discretionary Grant in an amount not to exceed $10,500,000 for preliminary engineering for the stitch using Eastside Tax Allocation District funds or other applicable funding and for other purposes. And Mr. Chair, the item needs to be amended. The amendment attaches Exhibit D and adds additional language on the 13th whereas clause.
Great. Motion to amend by Juan, second by Faruqi. And just so you'll know, this is an amendment to add a letter of support from Senator Ossoff, which joins a letter in support from Senator Warnock, Representative Williams. GDOT is also in support. So it's a pretty robust front to get these federal dollars for this project. Before we open the vote, I believe Council President Shipman had a quick remark.
Yeah, thank you. I appreciate that. I appreciate all of my colleagues supporting this. You know, this is a big investment and it's a very big project, but I think that something just on a tangible level, the two things that everyone needs to keep in mind with this project and why I'm very supportive. One, this is very much about equity and about reconnecting what was divided when the connector was built between neighborhoods of Auburn Avenue, the old Buttermilk Bottom neighborhood, Fourth Ward. And so I think that this is an investment that is much larger than just the investment in infrastructure. The other is we know that downtown and that side of the city needs more affordable housing. And I think that a project like this actually will change the geography in a way that will help attract more private sector dollars and other public sector dollars to affordable housing. So it is a transportation project, but I think we also should keep in mind that it's much bigger than that, and I think it can be transformative. So I'm excited about it. Thanks.
Thank you. So I think we have a motion to amend before us. Please open the vote.
The vote is open. The The vote is closed. 6 yeas, 0 nays. This item has been amended.
Motion approved as amended by Juan, second by Farokhi. Please open the vote.
The vote is open. The vote is closed. 6 yeas, 0 nays. This item is favorable as amended. Item number 1522R4263, a resolution by Councilmember Amir Farokhi requesting the mayor or his designee to make the intersection of Crescent Avenue Northeast and 13th Street Northeast an always stop control intersection, to request the Atlanta Department of Transportation to install stop signs at the intersection and for other purposes.
I'll move to approve. Second by Westmoreland. Please open the vote.
The vote is open. Will everyone please vote? The vote is closed. 6 yeas, 0 nays. This item is favorable. Item number 1622R4322, a resolution by Transportation Committee authorizing the mayor or his designee to supplement funds for contract FC 9994-A airside electrical on-call contractor with Brooks, Berry, Haney, and Associates Incorporated at Hartsfield-Jackson Atlanta International Airport on behalf of the Department of Aviation on a task order basis in the amount not to exceed $2,100,000.00. All contracted work will be charged to and paid from the account numbers listed herein and for other purposes.
Mr. Bayadari.
This is to add FY23 annual funding for airfield O&M work, electrical work, that is.
I'll move to approve. Councilmember Juan, sorry, I said.
That's right. Mr. Bayadari, is the funding level of $2.1 million consistent with the previous years?
Similar to previous years.
Thank you.
And whatever fund is not used, we will back into the end of the fiscal year into our funds.
Thank you.
We had a motion by Farokhi. I believe the second was by Juan. Was it? Or by Westmoreland, sorry. Please open the vote.
The vote is open. The vote is closed. 6 yeas, 0 nays. This item is favorable. Item number 1722R4323, a resolution by Transportation Committee authorizing the mayor or his designee to execute the Second Amendment for Agreement IFBC 1200369 landfill and airport slope mowing and clearing with Genesis Testing Incorporated on behalf of the Department of Public Works and Department of Aviation to add funding for the Department of Aviation airfield and landslide slope clearing and vegetation removal at Hartsfield-Jackson Atlanta International Airport for the remaining term of the agreement in the amount not to exceed $1,030,000.00. All contracted work will be charged to and paid from account numbers listed herein and for other purposes.
Mr. Bayadari.
This amendment is to use the city contract to put money in this contract to help us with our FAR Part 139 certification requirement in vegetation removal from all the slopes we have inside the airfield.
Councilmember Juan.
This is a form question, not a scope. Because it extends past one fiscal year, should we not include language in there that conditions it on subject to future FY budget approvals? Ooh, I stumped them.
You resave the question while we're in this period of silence.
Yeah, so since this spans beyond, across multiple fiscal years exceeding this one, should there not be language that explicitly makes it contingent on funding and budget approval in the future fiscal years?
Mr. Chair, if you would please allow us a moment to read the full content of the paper.
let's give them a resolution, or at least some clarity may be forthcoming. If not, we'll move forward.
No, I agree with Councilmember Juan. This is going into 2 years, fiscal year 23 and fiscal, so. You want to answer, Mr.?
I think we need someone to speak to it in the microphone.
This is Vivica Brown from the Department of Law. I believe your question was whether or not the legislation can be approved with budget dollars for future years, or should it be approved contingent upon the approval of budget in future years? And that is true. It should be.
Yeah, there's usually language that expressly makes it contingent on future budget adoptions.
Yes.
So rather than hold this up, I'd say, look, I'll make the motion if someone can craft the amendment that adds that language, maybe we can have it by the end of the meeting and go through the other business items first.
The law department, and if it.
Okay, so let's let this item lie for the time being and move forward. We'll come back to it. Yeah.
Item number 18, 22R 4324, a resolution by Transportation Committee authorizing the mayor or his designee on behalf of the City of Atlanta to enter into the First Amendment to the lease agreement with Worldwide Flight Services Incorporated to include additional lessee responsibilities for solar panel improvements, installation on the portion of the leased premises located at South Cargo Building C at Hartsfield-Jackson Atlanta International Airport, and for other purposes.
Mr. Bayadari.
This is to allow the lessee to add solar panel on the building roof. Of course, they will have to meet all design and construction criteria, and this will not change the term of the existing lease.
Great. Motion to approve. Second by Juan. Please open the vote.
The vote is open. The vote is closed. 6 yeas, 0 nays. This item is favorable. Item number 1922R 4325, a resolution by Transportation Committee authorizing the mayor or his designee on behalf of the Atlanta Department of Transportation to execute Amendment Number 1 to Contract FC 9724, designed for the Westlake Avenue Bridge Project with Heath and Lineback Engineers Incorporated, to add additional funding in the amount not to exceed $115,169.01. All contracted work will be charged to and paid from the fund, department, organization, and account numbers listed herein and for other purposes.
Good morning, Jessica
Good morning.
Fulton, Deputy Commissioner, Capital Projects, ATL DOT. This resolution will allow us to provide funding for additional environmental assessments, railroad track surveys, and drainage system design to address a drainage issue we're having at the CSX location on this project.
Motion to approve by Juan, second by Westmoreland. Please open the vote.
The vote is open.
A question from Juan before you cast your vote, if you haven't already. Yeah. Councilman Juan?
No, go ahead.
Okay.
The vote is open. The vote is closed. 6 yeas, 0 nays. The item is favorable.
So it's kind of unrelated, but because of the mention of the CSX, have they reached out to y'all about housing unsheltered encampments and trash running and blocking drains? You talked about drainage. I know that Norfolk Southern is having some issues with this as well. Is that?
I'm not
okay?
aware.
Let's talk offline. Thanks.
We're on to item 20.
Mr. Chair, item number 20 requires an amendment. The amendment changes the caption. It adds the agreement number in the caption of the legislation.
Okay, I'll move to amend as stated. Second by Westmoreland. Please open the vote.
The vote is open. The vote is closed. 6 yeas, 0 nays. This item is amended. Item number 20, 22R 4326, an amended resolution by Transportation Committee, a resolution authorizing the mayor as designee to enter into a cooperative purchase agreement, CPG 1230026, using Georgia Department of Transportation contract, traffic signal electrical facility parts contract number listed herein with 10 vendors for the purchase of the traffic signal electrical facility parts and accessories in an amount not to exceed $5 million and 0 cents. All contract work to be charged to and paid from the council numbers listed herein and for other purposes.
Ms. Fulton.
This will allow us to piggyback GDOT's contract to purchase signal and ITS equipment for ongoing maintenance purposes as well as capital projects at a lower price negotiated by GDOT. This will ultimately save the City of Atlanta and the department money.
Great. Move to approve. Second by Westmoreland. Please open the vote.
The vote is open.
Yes.
Will everyone please vote? The vote is closed. 6 yeas, 0 nays. This item is favorable as amended. Item number 21, 22R 4327, a resolution by Transportation Committee authorizing the mayor or his designee to enter into Amendment Number 1 to FC 9662-A, Transportation and Infrastructure Construction Services with Astra Group LLC on behalf of the Atlanta Department of Transportation to add funding in the amount not to exceed $47,593.10 for the Inman Park Intersection Improvement Project, with all contracted work to be charged to and paid from the fund, department, organization, and account numbers listed herein and for other purposes.
Ms. Fulton.
These additional funds will allow us to complete additional asphalt milling and paving, and the installation of additional signs and striping as required by the resolution to make a multi-way stop at this location. And this is for the Inman Park Intersection Improvement Project.
Second, Farooqui. Please open the vote.
The vote is open.
I'm sorry, Ms. Fulton, can you just articulate again what work on the corridor this is for? Apologies.
I'm sorry, it's for additional milling and paving quantities as well as the installation of additional signs and striping.
Okay.
The vote is closed. 6 yeas, 0 nays. This item is favorable.
Thank you.
Item number 22, 22R 4328, a resolution by Transportation Committee authorizing the mayor as designated to enter into a cooperative maintenance agreement with the Atlanta Downtown Improvement District on behalf of the Atlanta Department of Transportation, pursuant to which the Atlanta Downtown Improvement District will maintain and improve fixtures installed in the public right-of-way in the Broad Street area and for other purposes.
I'll move to approve. I have Mr. Nagy down here is potentially commenting on it, but
Good morning. My name is Doug Nagy, Deputy Commissioner with Atlanta DOT. Basically, this is an agreement where the CID will take over short-term maintenance, cleaning it if someone drops their trash bag, maintaining the chairs, that type of thing, and the city would maintain the physical facilities, street lighting, like the major capital expenses. We're working on a second agreement that would allow them to do programming in this space to try to activate it as well. But this is a very important, activation space for downtown Atlanta, and this agreement will help us make sure it's in a good condition at all times.
this is a reactivation space, right? It's the heart of, and part of District 2, and excited to see this come back online. It looks beautiful right now, and happy to see this public-private partnership to keep it going. Councilmember Dozier.
It's one of those mornings. Thank you so much. My only question is just regards to the extent of the maintenance agreement. I recognize the discussion here is largely around the fairly popular section of Broad Street, but just wanted to know that there was any limitations as far as how far down Broad Street this agreement.
I could get into the exact extents, but the focus is largely the boardwalk.
Okay, thank you.
We have a motion by Farooqui, second by Juan. Please open the vote.
The vote is open. The vote is closed. 6 yeas, 0 nays. This item is favorable. Item number 23, 22R 4329, a resolution by Transportation Committee authorizing the mayor or his designee to exercise renewal option number 1 for IFBC 1210241, installation of traffic calming measures with Georgia Paving Incorporated on behalf of the Atlanta Department of Transportation for time only and for other purposes.
Mr. Kadir.
Good morning, North Kadir, ATL DOT. We have an existing contract with Georgia Paving. We're just trying to exercise renewal option number 1, so we could continue installing traffic calming measures.
Motion approved by Juan, second by Farokhi. Please open the vote.
The vote is open. The vote is closed. 6 yeas, 0 nays. This item is favorable.
We'll now need to return back to item 17. Councilmember Juan.
Mr. Chair and my colleagues, I just had a conversation with the law department as well as the airport team, and while ideally the language in terms of the subject to contingent on it should be in there. The law department is comfortable with the form that it's in now, and given the dollar amount, I think rather than holding that up, I'm comfortable moving forward, and they've agreed that in future legislation with similar traits that they'll be sure to include that in there. So I'm going to just make the motion to approve the original item 22R 4323 as is with that understanding.
Councilmember Juan, may I speak, please?
Please.
Vivica Brown from the Law Department. It's my understanding that the legislation lists out the funding per fiscal year, and I believe, Councilmember Juan, your question was whether or not this body could approve future funding in future years. Is that correct?
Not exactly, but again, there's other legislation that we've seen where when it extends past a current fiscal year, that the additional language is put in there subject to approval and available funds just to give additional protection to the city. So that's the concern I'm raising, and it's, again, there's boilerplate language out there that we can pull.
I think the Law Department, and I've conferred with the city attorney on this, we have standardized the contracts and have included language for the future fiscal years. I'm not sure if you have that page in the legislation where it lists out for each fiscal year, but we understand that that is absolutely okay. It is approvable by this body, and the Law Department supports it.
We have a motion by Juan, second by Farokhi. Please open the vote on item 17.
The vote is open. The vote is closed. 6 yeas, 0 nays. This item is favorable.
Now we'll turn to 2 appraisals we need to approve, correct?
And we can take those in together as a block.
Great, please do.
Section L, appraisals. Item number 37, the purpose of the appraisal is to estimate the market value of the new section right-of-way of Niles Avenue, abandoned pursuant to 22-1088, consisting of approximately 0.37 acres lying and being in land lot 189 of the 17th District of Fulton County, Georgia. The market value has been determined to be $560,000.00. Item number 38, the purpose of the appraisal is to estimate the market value of new section right-of-way of Reynolds Street abandoned pursuant to 22-1089, consisting of approximately 0.25 acres lying and being in land lot 189 of the 17th District of Fulton County, Georgia. The market value has been determined to be $580,000.00.
I will move to approve these appraisals. We don't need to move.
We move to accept these.
Excuse me, move to accept. Apologies. Second by Juan.
This is merely by voice vote.
Don't even have to vote. Look how easy this is. Thank you. That concludes our agenda today. Any final remarks from members of the body? And barring none, we are adjourned.